So hello guys, yet we are into another podcast and we have Ken, we have Shannon, we have Dhaval, and again they are running three YouTube channels. So I hope everybody knows about them. Since we are doing this podcast from past 2 to 3 weeks, and probably will be coming up again in the upcoming weekends. Where we'll be taking up your questions. So I would like to. So first of all, welcome guys. Welcome again. I know like we are doing podcast from past weeks, but again we'll keep this practice. We'll try to answer as much as questions. So would you like to introduce yourself for our viewers again who does not know you? So we'll start with Ken.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Krish. It's always fun to do these. For anyone who's not familiar with me, my name is Kenji. I run a YouTube channel, which is also named Kenji. I'm the head of data science at a small consulting firm out of the Washington, D.C. area. And we focus mainly on sports analytics. We also do some government contracting. So the general focus there is on performance and how to use the data that's collected on players and teams to help improve their odds of winning. So I also really enjoy making videos about how to get into the field of data science. That's something that when I was starting out, I had a lot of questions about that weren't really answered on a lot of places on the internet. So, if you're interested in that type of content, I would definitely take a look at some of my videos. We're also going to talk about some of these things in these podcasts going forward. So I think this is a great resource and hopefully can help a lot of people.
Okay, now Shannon, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank Krish for the kind introduction. My name is Chenin Nantat Sanamad, and I work at a research university as an associate professor of bioinformatics. So much of the work that I do is applying data science in order to make sense of biological data. So what we do for research is to apply data science to design drugs, to find optimal chemical functionality of the drugs in order to make it more potent when we finalize it into a FDA-approved drug in the future. Yeah, and I'm also running a YouTube channel called Data Professor because my name is so long. So I think Data Professor is more memorable. Yeah.
Yeah, I lucked out with a short name.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chanin. Dhaval, you can introduce yourself. We have already done the podcast, so many people know you again.
So yes, so just brief. I'm Dhaval Patel. I run a YouTube channel called Codebasics. I started teaching programming because I am myself a software engineer, and I work in Bloomberg, which is a finance company. So a lot of like finance analytics we do. We do a lot of data engineering, data cleaning, and deal with like a huge volume of financial data. So that's what I've been doing for past 10 years. My main role at my company is software engineer, but then I saw, depending upon the project, I do a little bit of data science and data engineering as well. And from programming, my channel evolved gradually towards data science and data analytics because that was my area. And Chris, we have previously done the videos of many of your viewers and my viewers. We kind of know both of us, like we have many common viewers.
Janin, if you don't know, like we have all common subscriber base,
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
So
some of the names,
because, I'll tell you, because all the questions in the last podcast that Dhaval and we discussed. So most of the questions were from the common subscribers. They knew each other. So
awesome.
Again, but this particular podcast will be pretty much interesting because we have from US, you have you and Dhaval. We have from Thailand, we have Chanel, and probably I'm from India. So now from the previous podcast, what we had actually seen there that many people are asking some of the common questions, right? So we'll try to answer those questions, and again in the same order. Ken, you can actually start answering the question, then we can go to Chanel, and then Dhaval, and finally I will also try to add some other things if anything is missed, which I hope will not be missed as such. So definitely we will try to answer those. So
awesome.
The first question that and I've seen this question a lot by many of our viewers. So can you become a data scientist if you aren't good at maths or programming? So Ken, I think I probably think this question is also asked in your channel. So you can you can actually answer this.
Well, I think that again, this is asked all the time of me, and it's one of the questions that for me it's a little bit frustrating because I think that you need to be good at math and programming to become a data scientist. But just because you're not good at math or programming right now doesn't mean that you can't become good at either one of those fields or both. And so I think that the biggest challenge is saying, is developing in people a growth mindset to say that, hey, I know that I need these skills going forward to tackle this field, but how do I go about and learn them? How do I go about and build them, even if I'm not great now? Because, these concepts, they can be difficult, they can be challenging, but I firmly believe that almost anyone can learn either of those disciplines enough to be effective as a data analyst or even a data scientist. So, it is less about, hey, you're not good at it, but you're not good at it yet. And that is the key component there in my mind, is that, how do we convince people, or how do you, change your mindset so that you can develop these skills over time? So the short answer is yes. I do think that you can become a data scientist if you aren't good at these skills now. But if you personally believe that you'll never be good at these skills, you won't be able to become a data scientist.
So we can go to Channing.
Yeah, so I agree with Ken, and previously I also received this question quite often, and so I have hand-drawn an infographic called the Data Science Landscape, where I summarize the 8 skill sets of a data scientist. And math and programming is among 2 of the 8 skill sets, and there are 6 other. So if you're not good in programming or math yet at the present moment, it doesn't mean that you cannot become a data scientist. As Ken has mentioned, yes, I agree that if you have a growth mindset and you see yourself in the future that you are aiming toward becoming a data scientist, so make a plan, jot it down, make a note of what you need to read and learn about. And I mean, over the course of 1 year or 2 years, I mean, if you learn something new every day, every week, then I believe that you can become a data scientist. At the moment, you might be lacking math or programming, but still, you might have other strong component. Like you might be very good in writing. You might be very good in communication. You might have pretty strong domain knowledge, or you could be very good in statistics. So the strengths that you have, the unique strengths that you have, would far outweigh the programming or the math ability that you have at the moment. So I believe anyone can learn, and I've even made a video. As a non-technical background, I'm a biologist, so I have 0 background in programming. So actually, my learning journey was pretty much very painful at first. So programming, I mean, trying to learn what is an array, what is a variable, I mean, for the first time. And so over time, it slowly came to me, it slowly clicked. So yeah, so like Ken said, I mean, if you have a growth mindset, then I mean, anything goes. I mean, just set your mind to it and just do it. Don't overthink it, just do it.
So thank you. Awesome points from Ken and Channing. Now, Dhaval, you can also add some points if you have any.
Yeah, sure. I would repeat the same thing that Kenji mentioned, that if you think that you're not good in math, is it because you're really not good, or is it because you did not have a right mentorship during college or school days? I was kind of average in math and statistics, but I found then 2 great resources to learn mathematics. One was the 3 Blue, 1 Brown YouTube channel, and the other one is mathsfun.com. So if you don't know, for example, what is vector and how to add 2 vectors on math.fun.com, they give a very simple analogy that, let's say plane is flying and there is a wind, and wind and plane both have a velocity as well as the direction. And if you want to add those 2 vectors, what you get is the end direction of the plane. So that's how you explain vector. If you want to explain what is matrix, then you just say have a couple of, let's say, products, and then each product have their yearly sales number and then your individual unit items. And if you do the math, what you get is actually matrix multiplication. So sometimes you think that you don't know the concept, but really you know it, and it's not that hard. It's just that you did not have right mentorship and resources. So we need to be very, very open, and as Ken mentioned, just have a learning and growth mindset. Try to look for right resources where you can sharpen those skills, and maybe you will figure out that you are not that bad at math.
Oh, thank you, Dhaval. I think I agree with all of you guys. I just like to add one point. Now, many people will be learning maths from their school days, right? So what I consider is that understanding the concept with a particular use case is pretty much important for a data scientist. So some people may find maths very difficult because that is the reason. The reason is that they are not able to relate with a real world use case, like how Dhaval said, gave the example of plane, wind, right? When they are able to visualize in that particular way, a real world object is placed in front of them. So definitely they will be able to learn those things. I was also an average student in kind of maths when I was in my high school and my college days, 11th and 12th. But as I entered into the data science industry, I was able to relate those things. If I take an example of differential equations, white is used, slopes, right? Now, when I am learning about deep learning techniques or machine learning algorithm, such as in linear regression, where I have actually learned about gradient descent, now I'm able to relate those. So what I feel is that, yes, people, they may find it maths difficult, but if they try to study or try to focus with respect to a real world scenario, I think they will be able to cover it much more quickly. With respect to programming, I think if you're good at some particular concepts, how to implement it, you need to practice with respect to that. But trust me, if you're able to understand something, implementation will definitely be easy based on the lot of resources that are actually present. So this was my point. If you want to add anything, otherwise I'll be going to the next question. I hope you agree with these points. Anyone who wants to answer?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I agree 100%. I'd love to add one thing. I think that, learning programming and learning math are complementary in a lot of sense. So, if you can understand how one of the data science algorithms work at a programming level, right? You functionally understand it enough that you should be able to understand the theory behind it, because you have to apply it with you have to write it in code. And so a lot of people think of those as two different things, but in a sense they're the same thing. And if you understand one, you have such a better chance of understanding the other. And so sometimes people are really focused on I have to learn these both at different times or whatever it might be. You can tie that knowledge together. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other or one at a time. So, to your point, I think that you do benefit from just being able to understand these things from a programming level, and sometimes the math can come after.
Cool.
Can
So
I add
we'll go to the next. Yeah.
So I mean, the idea suggested by Ken and Dhaval. So it came to me that there's a lot of this. I mean, if you get started, right? If we just get started, if we don't overthink it, just get started with learning data science. And let's say that, okay, you're trying to implement random forest, and then there's this concept of bagging, and then you have to learn about bagging, right? You have to learn about the number of trees that it will be generating. So what you could do is do the just-in-time learning. So you learn just enough in order to use it. And so if you do this bit by bit, it wouldn't be a big burden. So, and then the next project, you might be wanting to learn about neural network. And then you will learn about, okay, what is neurons, how they connect it. So you learn slowly. So, I mean, if you implement the just-in-time learning, so it doesn't have to be a big burden. And yeah. It's reachable.
Chanin, I call basically it as a reverse engineering, pick up a project that learn all the things that are, go to the core and learn all the branches that are involved for that use case. So amazing thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. We all have different, I call this minimum viable knowledge, minimum viable product for startups. You just enough to be able to get your hands dirty, and then you can keep learning as you go. So I think it's really
we use different terms. I call it targeted learning or project-based learning, but the concept is all same. Now, one point I want to add, Chenin, is one frustration that people face with this approach is that, let's say I'm working on image classification project, and I need to learn now about wavelet transform and Fourier series, and I don't know anything about it. I don't know even what is time and frequency domain. So I'm working on this project, making a slow progress. Now I'm kind of making a fork out of it to go into steps world and learning all these concepts. Then I have to come back so that I can make a progress in my project further. One problem that people face is when you go in this world, you kind of can get stuck in a black hole and you never come out. But people have to keep this in mind, that they have to keep a balance, that they don't get stuck. At the same time, they need to appreciate the fact that it's okay to spend 2 weeks in this area, right? Don't think that I have not made any progress in my project for 2 weeks. It's totally fine. Your progress may slow progress. It is okay, because you are now learning a lot of new things which will be useful in doing other projects in the future. So we have to be mindful about that fact. Don't get frustrated, have a lot of patience. At the same time, don't get stuck in a black hole.
Right.
Thank you. So guys, we'll go with the next question. This was also a commonly asked question, like what college major gives you the best data science opportunities? So there are many college majors as such as, if you consider engineering, master's, PhD, and again, in that you have various technical domains. If you are from mechanical engineering, civil engineering, if you're a commerce background, or if you are from arts background. So definitely, Kenny, you can go with this answer, with this question. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that this question is a lot more complex than just, hey, what should you study? I mean, the real question that you want to know is like, what can I do to get the best opportunity for a job? So in simple terms, I would study something technical, something STEM related. I think the perfect like group of skills from a major perspective is if you were to double major in computer science and statistics and had a minor in business. But I think that amount of workload is probably way too much for people. And if you had just majored in computer science or something technical, or even just minored in one of these things, I think school, you should, at least in the States, study what you're interested in and do really well. The thing that will help people the most get jobs is actually internships or getting work experience. So it matters a little bit what you study, but it matters a lot where you apply those skills in internships or in projects. So for the people that are asking this question, I'd say like, hey, like it matters a little bit. Like maybe you should pick up some of these technical skills, but you're worrying about the wrong thing. You should be worried about trying to get as many internships as possible, trying to get as much real experience as possible, because that's going to take you so much further.
Shannon, you can go ahead with the question.
Right. So, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, any major can, I mean, like for example, I'm trying to recall my time back in undergraduate study. So back at the time, I was a biology major, and in my 4th year, I decided that, okay, it's so cool to be a computer programmer. And so I'm like, okay, should I change my major? I was like, just 10 credits away from graduation. And so I decided not to, because otherwise I would have to redo a lot of my courses. And so what I did was pursue a PhD study. And during the course of my 1st year, I met this potential co-advisor from a research conference. And then he just newly graduated from the US, and he was working on neural network and data mining at the time. And so I got my head start there. And so the thing is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's good that you have, if you could do a STEM related study. But the thing is, what if not? What if you're coming from an art major or biology major, right? But still that's STEM. The thing is, if you have passion for data, I mean, if you're fascinated by trying to understand how things happen, I mean, I think the foremost part is curiosity and passion. If you have both of these, I mean, as a data scientist, you would have to try to find the origin of a particular research problem. You have this idea and you want to find the origin. How did it happen, right? So what kind of data you have to collect, and then you have to apply the scientific method in order to understand the data and systematically evaluate various hypotheses, right? And so I believe if we have passion and we have the strong desire, we have grit, we have perseverance, we have the growth mindset. And so it links back to the first question. And then, I mean, any coming from any major, but the challenge is you have to craft your own personal journey. You have to craft, I mean, kind of like what is your niche going to be in? I mean, if you go into data science initially, you'll be overwhelmed with a lot of terminologies, right? Like deep learning, natural language processing. It's very confusing. So the thing is, what is your niche? I mean, if you're interested in, like for example, sports analytics, right? Kenji will be explaining that. So, I mean, you select some niche project to do, and then you learn the appropriate learning techniques. Or what if you want to do bioinformatics? So in bioinformatics, we use a lot of just traditional machine learning and also deep learning lately. And the important part is exploratory data analysis. So I mean that's the most important thing. I mean, you could have a very accurate black box, but at the end of the day, you have to convince the biologists how to make that into an experiment. So yeah, I mean, any coming from any major, I think we can get a head start there.
I agree with that, Shannon. Yes, Dhaval, you can go with the answer now.
The way I would answer this is which particular role you are targeting, because when you say data science, actually you can become data scientist or a data analyst or a data engineer. If you're targeting data engineering role, you need to be more better on a programming side of the thing. So if you have science background, it will be helpful. If you're targeting data scientist, then a nice balance of math, stats, and programming are going to be helpful. So any major which has more focus on math, statistics, and programming is going to be helpful. If you're targeting data analytics, then I see many data analysts who are not doing programming at all. And when it comes to math and stats, again, they don't need to be like super expert. So in that case, having good knowledge on a business side or a specific domain such as healthcare, finance, whatever, people do major in finance and they can become a financial analyst. So it really depends. When you think about data science as a field, don't just think that data scientist is the only role. And the fact that you can come from a diverse background and make a successful career in data science field is very fascinating, and it is very hope-giving as well, because many times people come in from economics background, they first become data analysts, and it's not very hard to do that. And then as they develop this experience, they can slowly transition towards becoming data scientists as well, because data scientist is nothing but all the data analysis skills plus math, stats, and programming skills, So it really depends. The scope is pretty wide. It's like pretty big.
So yeah, amazing guys. I agree with all of you. The main thing that I would like to say is that yes, considering every domain, see, data science is a technique that can be applied in any domain, right? So if the person is coming from some different background, from finance background, from any business kind of background, they already have that domain knowledge. Yes, they need to do some additional preparation of programming. They need to understand how things are done. But the main thing is domain knowledge. Right? They have that domain knowledge. So I think, yes, anybody can do it. I always motivate people that if you have the domain knowledge, if you're good at something, start applying. Find out the problem statement in a company, start applying techniques that are related to data science, machine learning, and deep learning to solve some common problems that you're facing, where you're doing some kind of manual activities, right? So yes, I agree with you all, and probably I needed to add one thing, and that have actually added, and probably all of you have actually covered all the other points. So yes, that is amazing.
Well, so I do have one small thing I'd like to add, if you don't mind. It's people get so wrapped up in their undergraduate studies, and if you don't feel like you got everything you needed there, you can always pursue the data science skill set in graduate studies. So, I mean, obviously there's some financial overhead. I mean, I'm in quite a bit of student debt because of it, but at the same time, I studied economics in undergrad, and I didn't feel like I got everything that I needed to really excel in data science. So I went back to school. That is always an option, and that's generally a good option. So I think people that are so worried about their undergrad, it's okay. You can study what you want. You can always go back to learn that knowledge. And there's also other great resources to learn that. So that should hopefully be a little peace of mind for that group who's very concerned about that question.
Amazing. So the third question, and probably I would like Dhaval to start with. So what can I do to help my job prospects after the pandemic situation? So this particular question is also again very, very common.
Sure. So first of all, pandemic is actually an opportunity for anyone who is trying to pursue their career in technology, because the technology adoption is going to only increase. My brother runs a software startup in India, and nowadays he's getting many inquiries from doctors who want to build a telemedicine software, from colleges who wants to build some kind of school management software and mobile app, etc. And as the adoption of IT increases, there will be more information which will get digitized, and hence the scope of data analysis also increases. So that's one big good news. So you don't think that pandemic is a bad news for your future. It's definitely an opportunity. Now, to increase the scope, when you apply for a job or when you're even trying to do freelancing, people want to look at your portfolio. Your portfolio is your past projects. Could be academic projects. It could be projects that you have done at your previous company. So building a strong portfolio of projects is extremely important. Now people say that, okay, I'm in the college. How can I build that portfolio? I posted this video on my channel about how do you get a programming experience without having a job. And when I say programming experience, it's like a real programming experience. Can you find an NGO nearby? Can you go to them and ask your help for free? Can you contribute to open source projects? Like open source projects, if you go to, let's say, Pandas open source project on GitHub, they have so many issues open. You can even send a pull request for 1 or 2 minor issues, and that will look pretty good on your resume. Try to help people on Stack Overflow. If you have this one line in your resume saying that, okay, I have this much rank on Stack Overflow, reputation, whatever, it's gonna make a big impact, and the probability of getting an interview call will go up. Also, if you're working somewhere, let's say you're a mechanical engineer, you're working on some kind of automotive project, can you identify data analytics opportunities in your field? The thing about data analytics is it's applicable, as you mentioned, Krish, in all the domains. So if you are in particular domain, you can always identify opportunity and then start working on that project on your side. And of course, you need to do hard work. And if you can build a little POC, show it to your management, maybe they will fund your project full time. And then that's something you can add it to your resume. Yesterday, I talked with one mechanical engineer. He was working in Wipro for 2 years as a project manager for a mechanical engineering project, but then he had to deal with a lot of Excel files, and then he learned Python on his own and Excel on his own, and he figured out how he can automate those manual processes. And then he realized that, oh, this is something cool. And eventually, now he became a data analyst. He's working for a firm in Germany. So there are always opportunities. We just need to be creative.
Amazing. So, Channing, we can go with the next question. We can go with, you can answer that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I also agree that pandemic era right now in lockdown mode, you'll probably be at home, so you have plenty of time. So it's an opportunity to upskill and reskill. So, I mean, there's a lot of online learning platforms that are offering big discount, Data Camp, 365 Data Science, Data Quest. I mean, all of them are pretty much heavily discounted or free for a period of time. And so it's an ever great chance that you could learn something new, stack up on your skills. And on my YouTube channel, I released about, I think it was 9 videos on the virtual internship programs. And I mean, there's a lot of programs that you could do online, and it'll take you only 5 to 6 hours. And for each of the program that you are doing, you have to solve a real problem that the company has faced, and they have created that problem for you to solve. And so with your own unique solution to that, I mean, you could also upload this to your GitHub profile, build your portfolio, as Dhaval has mentioned. And so I think that's a great opportunity. And just a few hours ago, I posted a Medium article on Towards Data Science. It is an example of how you could build a bioinformatic data mining machine learning model. So you could, I mean, if the subscriber could have a look at that and maybe try to apply data science, machine learning to a problem in biology. And I mean, you could also put this in your portfolio. So try and play around with various domains and fields, and you might pick up some novel approach that you could reapply to another domain. Like, for example, in bioinformatics and biology, there's a lot of techniques in natural language processing that I see that they are applying that in order to design a new drug. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, just using NLP and then using that to create a new molecule. I mean, who would have thought that, right? So it's a merger of kind of like translating one area to another. I mean, try to mix and match. I mean, you might create something innovative. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Amazing. So Ken?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what both Channing and Dhaval are saying particularly about the virtual internships and finding new opportunities to create value for companies. I think that one of the important things that we have to think about is how do we solve problems? What projects can you do that have real value in the world? Right now, the world has a lot of problems with it. And there's plenty of really good data out there that can help with, pandemic relief, that can help with social justice issues, that can help with a lot of real things that have a lot of impact. I'm pretty sure one of the largest dashboards for keeping track of the COVID cases was open sourced, was done by one, I think they were like a college or a grad student. And there's no reason why someone watching this can't create something very similar. I would also say that this is a great opportunity to figure out what types of opportunities you really want to have as an individual. What industries do you want to work on, and to do projects that are related very specifically to those industries. Let's say, obviously I'm in sports, but let's say I was interested in agriculture and trying to understand the future of that field. I knew I wanted to work in that field as a data scientist. I could go out and find a lot of agricultural data, maybe do 2 or 3 projects in that domain. And that would give you such a huge advantage for getting a role in that domain over anyone else. To me, this is a great time to maybe specialize a little bit in that domain knowledge that you were talking about. We, again, as everyone else had mentioned, we have the time now. So why not capitalize and try and maybe niche down a little bit and really show where your strengths are.
Amazing. Guys, the thing is that the person who is actually answering the last, I think you all have actually covered all the points. So I don't have any much, but I'll write just to say an instance about something, right? So Dhaval said about contributing to open source project. So I really want to say you a very interesting thing about this. So one guy recently contacted me. I asked him that, he told me, so what is the guidance to become a data science, to go into data science? So I told him that start contributing to open source project and put that in your GitHub. And he said, yes, I have actually contributed to the open source project. Then I asked him, how did you contribute? Because you're saying that you have not even started learning. And he said, sir, in one of the GitHub, I had found out some spelling mistakes. I took that issue, I fixed that spelling mistake, and merged back to the GitHub. Now every people is using those README file. So it was actually a README file, okay, where there was kind of 2 spelling mistakes, and he changed the spelling mistake, he merged back to the GitHub. So what I'm trying to say is that contributing to open source project is not only that, okay, fix some complicated issues. Again, everybody's serious right now over here, so I just made a bit of fun, to entertain this whole open source contribution part. Now, but definitely I've met some of the students who have extensively participated in open source projects, and they were able to get Google Summer of Code internship. Probably I think now it is pretty much important that you contribute to open source projects. As many people does, that will actually put a wonderful impression in front of the recruiters if you have that in your resume itself. Apart from that, I think everybody has covered most of the points.
I would like to add one point, which is making connections is also very important. If you have any conference going on, I know we are in lockdown, but once it's open, so there are a lot of conferences going on around Python, data science, and so on. Make sure you go to those conferences. Even if you have to pay out of your pocket, building connections in conferences is extremely useful. Even if you're not at conference, you can send LinkedIn invites to people. Let's say I want to build connection with data scientists in Amazon. Let's just send LinkedIn invites. And there are some protocols on how you should behave on LinkedIn. You can't be a burden to someone. But if you learn those principles and make great connections, those connections are often useful in getting a job. I know one guy, he was from BITS Pilani in India, and he presented in PyData conference. And he got a lot of job offers just in the conference itself because he was one of the speakers. Now, if you're not speaking, even then it's fine. You can just go talk to people. So building connections, extremely important.
Okay, one more good news, guys. What I have to say from my side is that on June 20th, right, I'm giving a webinar in deeplearning.ai events, in one of the events. So that is happening in June 20th. Just got the confirmation yesterday, and this is for the whole viewers. I'll see you all in June 20th. It will be announced in LinkedIn separately. So anybody needs to add anything as such? Again,
I'll be tuning in June 28th. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
So, okay, we'll go to the next question now. Okay, this is an interesting question altogether. And I probably think Everybody will be having some different things with respect to this. So I would like Channing to start with. So what happens when data science is misused? Channing.
Right. So, I mean, it's pretty, I mean, the question is a bit vague. So misuse can be in many ways, right? But generally misuse has a negative connotation. So, I mean, misuse in the terms of invasion of privacy, or would it be misuse of using for the wrong purpose? So
Generally, Channing, generally, it
yeah.
can be anything.
All right. So it really depends on the area that it is being misused on. And so I recall there was a video by Ken's channel on the was it the weapons of math destruction, right?
Yes,
So
really good book. Highly recommend.
right. So I mean, at the moment, I'm pretty much blank for that question right now. Yeah. So maybe I'll send to you guys, and if there's anything that pops up, and yeah, I'll add later.
Yeah, Dhaval, you can answer. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say the misuse of privacy is one of the biggest concern. Even big companies like Facebook, Google. Google was fined a couple of $1 billion under GDPR Act by European Union for the invasion of privacy and some of their practices. So Facebook, pretty much all the social media companies they have gotten involved in some kind of fines, and they have been invited by Congress for hearing in Washington D.C. So even if big companies can get into trouble, like individuals or small firms can easily get into trouble where they maybe not intentionally but unintentionally they end up misusing the data. Like if I have Alexa or a Google Mini at my home, and if it's listening to my conversation, I always feel kind of nervous that because I am not sure now. Google has so much of information about me. It knows so much of my personality. Even they use this information for targeted marketing. There was a survey that was done in Australia, and 70 to 80% people didn't feel good about targeted marketing. Targeted marketing is kind of legal, but many people don't feel comfortable about it. So it really, sometimes you almost get into a dilemma on what is right and what is wrong. And keeping a balance becomes very, very difficult when billions of dollars are at stake, right? So if you're Google and if you're generating, let's say, $10 billion of revenue through targeted marketing, and if we term that as illegal, Google will try their best to, annotate as a legal activity. So that is one thing that we have to be really careful about. Governments need to work on tight regulations. Europe has GDPR, US, every country has different rules, but we as an individual citizens need to become part in that democratic process where we can help governments design these regulations so that the data science doesn't get misused. Data science is just like any other tool. It's like knife. You can use it to cut the fruit, or you can use it to, stab someone.
So yeah, amazing. So considering this, guys, I really want to talk about something. One of my friends was saying that now Google knows you more than your parents knows you. Huh? So this
or
is
more than your wife.
Yeah.
so it has all the information with respect to your, like even you on the location, right? Wherever you're going, suppose you're stopping at one place, everything it knows, because you'll be seeing, right? Suppose you have stopped near a KFC or a McDonald's, right? They'll suddenly ask you, can you provide some reviews, feedbacks, right? So those kind of notification usually comes up. So yeah, Ken, we should go with you.
Yeah, so something Dhaval said was very interesting. I think he said whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And a lot of the times, the decision making around this, people are just following optimization. You look at, for example, like Facebook News, right? They want to push articles that will get the most interaction. But articles that get the most interaction are usually very sensationalistic. They speak in absolutes. They aren't always they're kind of clickbaity, things like that. And, that's in theory a pretty bad thing if the only news that's getting pushed is very sensationalistic, very scary headlines. And so whose responsibility is that to change? Is it Facebook's, or is it the actual responsibility of the data scientist, machine learning engineer, whoever it is, who's creating that algorithm? So I think for every data scientist, it's really important to look at your own work and to look at how it affects other people more broadly, rather than just looking at how it affects your role in the company. I mean, I think data scientists have a responsibility to think about the broader impact of their work. Another good example of this is in the US education system. You know, one of the things that is a huge driver of university decision-making is the college rankings that are issued. And historically, the college rankings actually didn't have any mention of price. So companies would try and make their campus beautiful by, you know, planting trees, making arboretums, like putting in golf courses, spending millions and millions of dollars to upgrade the buildings. But this just inflates the cost of tuition because that wasn't a metric that was captured. That's something that's directly taken out on the students. And, you know, if we're thinking about education, that's probably one of the most important components for so many people. So we're also responsible for understanding what the repercussions of our models are, and also for maintaining models over time and making sure that they're actually relevant to the use case. I mean, I think a lot of data scientists think, oh, once this is in production, I'm done with the model, I can move on to something else. But like data changes, the scope of the economy and the problem changes over time, and it's really important to continue to give your models relevant feedback. So I think that that's maybe a little bit of a word of caution, is that, hey, you're responsible for the things that you put into the world, and, you know, try and make sure that you're doing good with them in general.
Amazing. Channing, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so the answer came to me. Yeah, so yeah, thanks for the ideas, guys. So yeah, so in the university, I work at a research university, and I also do research. So before we even ask for money from the university or funding agency, what we normally have to do is, if the data that we're using is related to patients or people, we have to request for approval from the Institutional Review Board, acronym is IRB, so that they could approve. So the thing is, we have to write a proposal. How do we intend to use the data that we have collected? And that data and the detail of our usage will be evaluated whether it is appropriate or not. And the thing is, if we don't abide by that, we could be sued for. So the thing is, we're going to be accountable for all of the usage of the data. And so that would dictate that for the data scientists in the project, like, or the programmer, what is the scope and the things that they could or cannot do for the project.
Amazing. So again, just like to add, I think we have covered all the points. It's all about ethics, guys, and I think companies should make sure that, you know, they don't do it unintentionally, at least.
Right.
But anyhow, government are coming up with more stronger policies, you know, where they are actually trying to look after them. So definitely, let's see how it happens. But again, you know, when it is happening for the first time, you know, it is always a mistake. It may be intentionally or unintentionally, but definitely, government basically looks at those things. You know, they come up with a more stricter policy so that it does not happen in the future. So yes, we'll go with the next question now. This is pretty much interesting, and probably right. I'll also answer about this. So the question is basically, do we need master or PhD to become data scientist? I think we can go with Ken.
Yeah. So I think historically, it was having a master's or a PhD was important for data science when starting out, because it was very difficult to evaluate someone's ability in the data science role. You know, when the field was very, very new, nobody knew what skills you needed. Nobody knew what was relevant for the work. So they'd say, oh, this is the closest thing we can get to a qualification process, or like a high quality interview, a credential, whatever that might be. As the field has progressed, I really don't believe that a master's or PhD is necessary. You know, I did 2 master's degrees, and I learned quite a bit through them. But looking back, I think I could have learned absolutely everything through open source resources, even for free, if I was maybe a little bit more motivated and I had a conversation about these types of things. I mean, if you're looking in terms of cost benefit, I mean, again, there's a lot of student loan debt that I have because of taking these degrees. And yes, I mean, they have probably helped me in the job search and those things, but was the cost benefit worth it? If you're looking in pure numbers, it probably wasn't. So, you know, I've talked to quite a few people who have gotten into this field from software engineering without master's degrees, from the data analytics side without advanced degrees. And I think the one most meaningful thing that I found is that if you get one data science role, just one, where you can call yourself a data scientist, that is the exact same thing as having a master's degree or a PhD in this field, because you've gotten that credibility, right? Someone else has been willing to hire you as a data scientist. That means when you go somewhere else, you hold that title and no one's going to really be looking at it. There's no questions about it because you've been a data scientist before. So it might be a little bit harder without an advanced degree to get that first data science position. But after you get it, in my opinion, it really won't matter.
Okay, Dhaval, you can answer next.
Chris, you want to go ahead because you have been last all the time. So if you can answer, and then maybe I'll be
okay,
last.
I agree with all the points that Ken has actually said. I'll tell you, because when I started, you know, it was somewhere around 6 years, 7 years back, and at that time we did not have that much materials present in the internet, right? So at that time, I also used to ask my friends who are actually doing masters, you know. So I used to ask them how to solve this particular problem, how to solve this problem. So at that time, I understood that if I just go 6 to 7 years back, I would say that yes, masters and PhD would have been, it would have been necessary in order to get the data science position, because there were no one to guide you over there, right? Because you need to have a different perspective of studying things. You know, at that time, a lot of materials are also not available in the internet itself. But now, what I feel is that now you don't require to do masters and PhD if you are specifically looking to go into data science. But if you are looking to do some additional research, you know, do some extensive new thing in this particular field, I would suggest go with masters and PhD. It is good to have masters or PhD, but it is not compulsory to have masters or PhD to become a data scientist. That is the point that I'd like to put. Sweet and simple. Yes, Ken. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole. You can go.
I would say you don't even need bachelor's degree. Forget masters. Yeah. I know for sure, because I have many friends working for FANG companies here in US. When they interview people, they sometimes hire college dropouts. Let's say you are a college dropout. You don't even have bachelor's, but you started contributing to open source projects, and you have, let's say, 50 pull requests merged in pandas. You have excellent project portfolio. Maybe you have done a lot of freelancing. Companies will hire you easily. On the other hand, you could be a master's from Ivy League University, and you will easily get rejected because you don't perform well in the interview. How do you perform well in the interview? Not just because you have bachelor's. You can perform well in the interview if you have done some real life projects. And college is often not the best way to do real life projects. So the world is changing very fast. Big companies, tier 1 companies, they are hiring college dropouts. I have a friend who is a college dropout working for like top 5 companies in US. He goes for campus recruitment, and he feels always weird. It's like, okay, I'm in this college recruiting all these guys, but I was like a dropout after first year because he never thought that college is the best way to utilize his time and skills.
Perfect. Shannon?
Yeah. So actually, I made a video about this. The video was to PhD or not to PhD. And so I dive into my own personal journey. So in a nutshell, personally, I did not pay for my PhD study. And so the thing is, why not, right? So, but then if I had to pay for it, right, I'm not sure whether I would go that path. But I'm grateful for having gone that path, because otherwise I wouldn't have been in this field of doing data science. And so, but the thing, I agree with Ken and Dhaval and also Grish that, I mean, the most important thing is not what you are. I mean, not what accreditation you have, right? Not the bachelor's or master's or whatever. And I agree totally that the ultimate thing is what you can do, right? So your abilities and your skills of being a data scientist is shown in your own portfolio. So the thing is, when you go to an interviewer, they see your portfolio, they'll be amazed at what you can do. So the thing is, it doesn't really matter what you have, right? You could have just a high school diploma, but you could do amazing stuff, as Dhaval has mentioned. I mean, you'll probably get hired right away. Yeah, so totally agree with that.
I think pretty much all of us across the board on our channels have videos about how to build a portfolio, how to do projects, why they're so important. And I think that that's such a common theme because it's so true and it holds true no matter what. I mean, data science is moving, hopefully, towards where software engineering is, where like, show me what you've done, where you're actually using these skills. And if you can like confirm that you can do that, we'll hire you. And it's like, to me, what does a degree have to do with that at a certain point? So yeah, I mean, highly recommend. I think everyone in this group has quite a few videos on that. And for anyone watching, I recommend absolutely wearing out those playlists because to me, that is the single best thing that you can do to either set yourself up for a job or to actually just learn this field in general.
Okay, so probably this is the question. There are actually two questions. I'm going to combine this together because they are almost same. Can AI replace programmers? Can AI take over the world? Okay, so these are the two questions. I'd give you a chance. Anybody can start.
Yeah, I'd be happy to start if that's all right. You know, my master's degree was in computer science, but my concentration was in machine learning and AI. So I touched on quite a few of the AI concepts. And the first thing that I took away was that I don't personally believe AI is as far along as people believe. I think that fundamentally computers are a little bit flawed. Like computers are programmed by humans for them to work effectively in the short term. And I think that there are going to be incredible advancements. But if you look at like the Turing test, you know, over 50, 60 years, it still has not been solved, which was supposed to be like the most fundamental like test of computer intelligence. And this is something that they thought would take 5 years. It ended up taking 10 years. It ended up taking 20, 50 years now. And to me, all of these AI advancements, you look at chess, you look at Go, they've taken slightly longer than anyone would have expected. And so if we're talking about like autonomous vehicles, we're talking about true AI singularity, I think that they will probably come, but I don't expect them to come in my own personal lifetime, just because the general trend has been that in AI, things move slightly slower than what people project. You know, from my perspective, I think that we should be careful. I'm not sure where I stand on the AI replacing programming. I think that that's happening a little bit already. I mean, you look at like PyCarrot, for example, right? Or Data Robot. You know, they're these software platforms that take care of some of the data science pipeline. But there's always going to be further steps that you can take on a programming side or an implementation side. It's like, you know, people still have to build these platforms. People still have to program these things. And as new data science algorithms or machine learning algorithms come out, people are going to have to program them so they're useful in these other places. So I think my short answer to that is in our lifetimes, I don't think that we will see AI take over the world, but we will see some elements of programming absorbed by AI. But there will always be data science or programming roles, at least for the next 20 or so years, in my personal opinion.
I agree with Ken that in probably our lifetime, it's not going to happen, but we have to be open about all the possible things that can happen. For example, if you're looking at genetic algorithms, I attended one seminar and that person showed how how using genetical algorithm, AI can write a program to produce Fibonacci series. Now that to me is pretty fascinating. So AI can write a program which can produce Fibonacci series using genetic algorithms. So that much is there right now. That has become a reality. Many thinkers like Elon Musk has raised these concerns about AI taking over the world. And we, of course, need a lot of regulations around it. There was an incident where Facebook, I think, had a chatbot which started talking in a language that they did not understand and they had to shut it down. So there are these kind of incidents happening. But my whole take is, while AI is evolving, we as a humans are also evolving. Okay, so we will always be superior, but we need definitely a tight government regulations. If you are in data science field, we need to be ethically very, very responsible to tackle such issues.
Thank you, Dhaval. Shannon?
Yeah, so I agree with both that, I mean, anytime soon it's not going to take over the world like in Terminator, but I believe that AI will be augmenting our abilities. So the other day I saw this commercial from Microsoft and a couple of years ago from Google Glass, right? You put on the glass and then you get to see like information in an augmented way. So I believe that it will help you. So if you're a medical doctor or you're a radiologist, it will help you to perform surgery better. If you're a mechanic, it'll provide you the details that you need, right? Or it could provide you like just-in-time information, right? You could just think of it, and it'll automatically, I mean, not even think. You could just dictate, and it'll search the internet, kind of like Alexa or Google, right? So I believe that it will augment our abilities. Yeah. So it probably wouldn't take over us. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So what I would like to say is that, as Dhaval said, say AI, whatever things that we are developing, basically a programmer is developing to make some of his tasks, which he used to do in a longer way, a little bit easy, right? So similarly, as we go ahead, more new things will be coming up, more programmers will be coming up with something new that will actually help to make the previous task much more easier. That is how I think AI will be getting involved. But again, as Dhaval also said, he gave some examples with respect to Facebook, the bots that started communicating with its own language, and suddenly that ethic thing came and they shut down that whole program. So this thing will already be happening. They'll try to work towards this. They'll try to provide a wonderful solution. But one thing to note is that, again, the programmer will also be getting upskilled, whereas the AI will be becoming more advanced. So that is what I think. If you want to add any more points, you can definitely add, guys.
I would add. You guys know about this Joe Rogan's podcast that was with Elon Musk, where he was drinking whiskey and smoking weed. That made a big news in media. And one thing people miss from that podcast is everyone just focused on Musk, drinking whiskey and smoking weed, but no one paid attention to his whole Neuralink talk. He has this startup called Neuralink, where he's trying to do the exactly same thing that Channing, you mentioned, which is augmenting human capabilities with technology. Now, if you look at us, we are already, there is a term for it. I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it. We are already human, or I forgot the term, but we are
humanoid?
Already,
Humanoid?
Humanoid, yeah, something like that, where you are augmented by technology. We are augmented by technology already. You have cell phones, right? And you can go to pretty much any destination using your Google Maps. So you cannot do it with your brain. So you are already augmented. With Neuralink, Elon Musk is trying to take that to one step further, because our communication or our interface with these devices is still very, very primitive. You have to type. You can do voice communication, but it is considered to be very, very slow. What if you can, let's say this headphone, I can plug it to my head and it can read my thoughts, and it can maybe write program, or it can take me to wherever I want to go. Elon Musk is trying to do this thing with Neuralink, and he has an interesting product coming up pretty soon. So with that, what will happen is, now it's not like AI fighting AI versus human. It is like AI versus human plus AI. Because humans are augmented by AI. So that way, you I think you are always ahead in the game.
Well, there's actually a really good example of that when it comes to chess. So in chess, I think it was Deep Blue that was the first to beat a Kasparov, who's a grandmaster. But an AI versus a human plus an AI, the human plus AI almost always comes out on top in chess. Well, a grandmaster, not just like a random human. And so like that combination of human and computer intelligence is, as you mentioned, almost always ahead. And that's like a very concrete example of that happening.
Amazing, guys. Yes.
I would like to add some small detail. Like at our university, there was another researcher from a faculty of engineering. So they have been working on this thing called brain-computer interface. So I think that's what Dhaval was mentioning, probably the neural link. So at the interface of the brain and computer, so they created this electrode. So it's kind of like a cap. So you put on it. And so they tested this on a handicapped person on a wheelchair. And so this device that they put on has electrodes. And so it is controlled by their thought. And then the wheelchair will move, like forward, backward, turn left, turn right, based on the thought of the person on the wheelchair without them even controlling or talking. Yeah, so it is slowly getting there. So probably we have to optimize it.
This is the next thing that is definitely going to come up, and yes, it is going to create wonders. So yes, guys, we have covered almost all the questions that were asked in the previous session for many of you all. And probably let's plan every weekend once, we'll tell the viewers, you can ask any questions in this video. We'll pick up that, then probably in the next weekend, Dhaval can actually do this. And again, he can actually upload in his channel. Similarly, Chanin can also upload this. So one week by week, what do you say, guys? Is it a good idea?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. I might have to take a week off because I'm moving soon, but aside from that, I should be good to go. Yeah.
We're just planning to do it on weekends if possible.
Perfect.
So whenever you are free, we can actually decide that time and probably. To the viewers, guys, you can ask any questions. We'll pick up those questions and probably we'll again do a podcast. Probably this video is all about guidance towards data science. So what are things, do's and don'ts? Probably most of the queries that you actually have, we'll try to resolve it. So thank you guys for giving your wonderful time. I know you all are busy people, but you are able to give time. You are able to give time for contributing to the data science community, which is pretty much important. And probably Dhaval has joined us in this group. Probably for the first time, Ken and Chanin have already done this kind of podcast. So probably from next weekend, again, Dhaval will be continuously coming up. I hope, Dhaval, right?
Yeah, I will be coming up. Actually, last weekend was my wife's birthday, and I promised her that your gift would be I would not touch my cell phone and a computer. So I knew this session was happening. I was very excited about it, but there is more important things in life than YouTube or data science.
Yeah, right. As definitely. Google knows more about you than your wife, as you said. Okay, so guys, one more thing, viewers, please do subscribe our channels. We are working really, really hard, to contribute to the data science community. All the link of Ken, of Chanin, Chanin has a channel which is called as Data Professor. Ken has with his own name. Dhaval has his channel with the name of Codebasics. All the link of the channel will be given in the description. So guys, please make sure that you support, because understand we all are working. We are just spending some extra time so that can give you some amount of knowledge with respect to your career. And it is helping many of the people. I've seen a lot of LinkedIn posts where they're tagging Ken, they are tagging Chanin, they're tagging Dhaval, they're tagging me, because they are able to get jobs some or the other way. It is helping. So guys, any motivation, as I say, guys, at the end of the day, I really want to close any video with providing some motivational things. So Ken, we can start with you. Any motivational thing that you want to give to the viewers?
Yeah, I think the thing that we actually started with was the idea of a growth mindset, and realizing that just because you're not good at something now doesn't mean you can't be good at it in the future. I grew up in high school, even early in college. I was an awful student. I was terrible at math. If you'd asked me then if I would ever write a single line of code, I probably would have told you no chance. But, look at where I am now. That's pretty much like what I do with my free time. That's what I'm doing all the time. And I'd like to think that I've gotten pretty decent at all those categories. So it's if you believe that you can actually learn these things, that greatly increases the probability that you actually do go out and learn them. So, that little shift in the mindset is something that can be very powerful, and I think is one of the most important parts of learning this field.
Yeah, we can go with Dhaval now. Any motivational thing, Dhaval, before?
One of the things that I see missing in education completely is they don't talk about the mindset or some of the soft skills too much. So I always suggest people to read two great books, which kind of changed my life. The first book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. The second book is The Magic of Thinking Big. I don't know if you guys have read those two books. Amazing books. Now, people just spend so much time reading Python and, Power BI and all of that, but no one wants to read such books. These books are actually prerequisites. You read those books because they will suggest you, or they will tell you how you can do pretty much anything very efficiently and how you can get success at anything, right? For example, you're trying to become data scientist, and we talked about building LinkedIn connection and all of that. But how do you build LinkedIn connection? Well, you will get some tips from how to win friends and influence people. If you read the book and follow the principles suggested in that book, you can make pretty much anyone your friend. You can make even your enemy your friend. We live in a world of collaboration. It makes sense, and it is always wise to have more friends than enemies. But people hardly spend any time on it, which is kind of very unfortunate. I talk to people, I always suggest that read these two books first and do not worry about technology or data science, whatever. Anything that you want to do in your life, it will fall through if you follow the principles in those two books. So yeah, if anyone is interested in motivation, I would say get those two books. We can even put the names of those two books in the video description.
Amazing, Dhaval. Thank you. Chanin, anything at the end?
Yeah, so I agree with Dhaval. I mean, the soft skill is very important because, and also Ken on the growth mindset thing. Like making YouTube at first, it's very challenging. And I mean, being on camera for the first time, I would remember, I mean, the adrenaline is pumping and I get very nervous on the camera. And, just the thought of recording a video again, it feels pretty awful at that moment in time. And it gets better over time. So the thing is, for those of you starting out data science, you're probably going to feel that way. But the thing is, don't overthink it and just do it. I mean, the thing is, just grind, just do it, just work. I mean, just continue, keep on walking. I mean, it'll get better over time.
It eventually gets fun too, right?
Yeah, it gets fun. Yeah, and then you'll be able to run. Like probably at first you might be crawling, and then you're walking, and then you're running, and then you're flying. So it gets better. Yeah.
The art of getting things done is to act. That's the quote I read. The art of getting things done is to act. It's like you want to run Python and you've been thinking about it. Forget everything. Install Python today. That's your first immediate goal. And if you can install Python today, give yourself a party and chill. That is an achievement that you already made. It does certainly consist of little small steps that you take.
So probably I would like to talk on behalf of everyone, like what is our aim. The reason, probably guys, I don't think so you have seen such kind of collaboration happening anywhere as such. And we are coming up with this plan of collaborating and providing knowledge to much as many people. And again, the main reason is that what I feel is that whatever difficulties I have faced while making a transition towards data science, I feel that if there was some kind of proper guidance, I could have done it pretty much easier, in a better way, and in a quicker way itself, and I could have done a lot of things. So considering this, guys, the main aim, again, as I told in my previous podcast also, the main aim of our channel is basically to guide people so that they will be able to get jobs, they'll be able to work in this particular technology itself, that is data science, which is pretty much, every organization is trying to use it, right? So yes, as I say that, never give up, keep on learning, because you are only the person who can motivate yourself. Trust me, don't make anyone judge you. You are special. You are having that kind of knowledge. You can do different things. So yes, this was pretty much from my side, guys. Anything that you want to add up, you can definitely add up.
No, thank you so much. This was so much fun again, as usual, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
So today in this podcast, I was a little bit strict because I was moderating. Many people over here. One by one, I was trying to incorporate so that you'll be able to answer in a pretty much way. So yes, guys, all the channel links of us will be given in the description of this particular video. I hope we can wrap up. I think Ken, Chanin, Dhaval, anything you need to add at the last, you can tell me. So that
we should have Joe Rogan's Elon Musk talk link in the video description. I highly recommend people watching that and don't focus too much on Elon smoking weed. Okay, look at some other parts. There is really some great points that he has made in that conversation.
Sure, definitely. I'll be putting that link in the description. So thank you, guys. It was an amazing talk. Again, we'll plan for the next weekend on Sunday. and probably we will be taking up all the questions. So viewers who are seeing this particular video, if you have any questions related to data science, please post down in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. Subscribe all the channel, Dhaval, Ken, and Channing. Please do subscribe the channel, support us. So yes, this was all about this particular video. I hope you like it. We'll see you all in the next video, next podcast. So yes, this was all about from our side. Thank you, one and all. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.